Robert Bigelow, a businessman and a UFO enthusiast, purchased a ranch in 1996 at $200,000, where he established the National Institute for Discovery Science and installed substantial surveillance. At the time, he may not have realized what he was getting himself into, but this would be the start of an ongoing investigation, one in which has opened his eyes to some of the more mysterious things living on our planet. This ranch is known as Skinwalker Ranch, and researchers and investigators who have conducted tests on the ranch have said there's something going on there, with various people coming forward with their impossible to explain encounters that in their opinion points to the fact that there's something otherworldly going on in and around this ranch. Bigelow and his team of researchers ultimately experienced more than 100 incidents on this property, but could not amass evidence that would be credible for scientific publication, something that other researchers who investigated the ranch also struggled with. Bigelow later sold the ranch in 2016 for $4.5 million. When Bigelow has been interviewed about the ranch, he's gone on to detail that there's definitely a presence there, and seeing a mysterious portal and unidentified flying objects isn't uncommon. In fact, when he was interviewed back in 2017, he was asked whether he believes in aliens, in which he responded, "I'm absolutely convinced." He was then asked, "Do you believe that UFOs have come to Earth?" He responded with the following: "There has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence, and I spent millions and millions of dollars. I probably spent more as an individual than anybody else in the United States has ever spent on this subject. I've had a close encounter with a UFO. It really sped up and came right to their face, and filled up the entire windshield of the car, and it then took off at a right angle and shot off into the distance." End quote. When asked where we can find alien life, he said that it's right under our noses. Interestingly, it's not just Bigelow that said it's tough to present evidence of the strange happenings on the ranch. Others who have been there have said there always seems to be something wrong when one of these events happens. One researcher posted the following statement: "During the early 2000s, I was sent in as part of a team to investigate Skinwalker Ranch. When our team was carrying out tests on the ranch, we encountered mysterious lights, along with various other things. Early on in the investigation, we noticed these blue UFOs flying around the sky that were able to suddenly stop and then fly away at extreme speeds. However, when the team tried to take photographs and videos, we noticed that the equipment would stop working. Fast forward a week and once again we observed strange lights in the sky. However, same as before, when we went to take some photographs, the battery on our cameras suddenly drained. We then had cameras around the property and had them running 24/7. Fast forward 2 weeks and again more mysterious lights could be seen in the sky. Once we checked the footage that had been recording the ranch, we discovered that the videos had cut out a matter of seconds before the crafts arrived. We found that this was something that kept happening. There was always something that would stop us from getting evidence. I now understand what people mean when they say that the ranch feels alive. It always felt like we were being played with." End quote. According to NIDS investigators, the private scientific research team deployed at the Skinwalker Ranch during its 20-year investigation for Bigelow Airspace and the United States government's Department of Defense. The Skinwalker, a creature that was seen in and around the ranch, could very well be an interdimensional creature that hops between universes and uses hidden portals found within the mountains, forests and national parks of our country as entry and exit points into our world. In the documentary The Hunt for the Skinwalker Ranch, NIDS researchers claim that while positioned on a ridge overlooking a basin, the team began to notice what they described as hovering balls of white light, and these were through night vision goggles pointed towards one of the middle homesteads on the property. As it hovered around 4 feet off the ground, the witness claimed that the white ball of light began to open up into an estimated 3-foot wide circular portal. However, on the night vision goggles, a device that can detect and measure near-infrared and ultraviolet radiation, the portal appeared to be more like a three-dimensional tunnel hovering above the ground. The researchers then described that an 8-foot-tall, completely black humanoid creature slowly began to crawl out of the three-dimensional tunnel, elbowing its way through the portal. The creature then grabbed the edges of the tunnel, pulled itself through and dropped down 4 feet before running into the darkness. Shortly thereafter, the portal began to close in on itself, forming a bright white ball of light before fading in intensity and disappearing completely. Taking into account this strange sighting and encounter witnessed by the NIDS investigators, could this mean that the Skinwalker creature is in fact an interdimensional species that continues to invade our world via the use of self-creating wormholes? If wormholes could in fact be created by the creatures, Einstein had once theorized that due to the nature of the universe as a fabric of space and time, a wormhole could theoretically do more than just connect 2 points of space in a universe, and could also connect 2 points in time. According to the NIDS reports, there appears to be a substantial amount of evidence for strange connections between the distant past and present across the Skinwalker Ranch. Families who also lived on the ranch before it was purchased would detail seeing strange-looking creatures, along with things like bright, unidentified flying objects. Could this mean that the Skinwalker, once thought to only inhabit the Americas, made its way to the rest of the world? In an effort to tie this creature with even more modern sightings, stories of the Dogman Beast, a creature that is commonly seen as a derivative of the werewolf legends of the recent past, seems to contain direct links to that of the Skinwalker. Ancient Egypt is home to the pharaohs and the pyramids. It was the setting of many mathematical, medical and agricultural advances, and in the modern day is a historical place of enormous intrigue and fascination. One structure that sometimes gets overlooked due to being next to the Great Pyramids is that of the Great Sphinx. The Great Sphinx of Giza, commonly known as the Sphinx, is a grand limescale structure in the Golden Giza Desert of Egypt. The statue is of a reclining sphinx, a mythical creature that combines the head of a human with the body of a lion. The Sphinx is seen as a dangerous, merciless creature in Greek mythology. In Egyptian mythology, however, the Sphinx is a slightly less cruel creature. Unlike the Greek Sphinx, the Egyptian one is firstly male, and secondly is described as more benevolent than the Greek Sphinx. However, they are both thought to be extremely strong, and guarded the entrance to temples in ancient times. Today the Sphinx is a tourist attraction more than anything. Such an incredible architectural feat naturally draws a lot of attention, and historians and researchers have spent years delving into the history of the Sphinx. Naturally, this leaves various unanswered questions. The first modern archaeological dig of the Sphinx was undertaken in 1817, but it was sometime before that it had been visited and captured in painting. Around 1798, French painter Vivens Denon painted a picture of the Sphinx, but when it was finished, critics noticed something a little strange. Denon had painted a man being poured out of the head of the Sphinx. 2 figures were helping a third one out of the head of the statue, which had been painted side on. Now you may wonder whether this was simply a matter of imagination. Perhaps Denon had wanted to add something a little different to the painting, but of course nobody knows for sure, as it was the 18th century and the beauty of both aviation and drone imagery had not quite yet been invented. However, in the 1920s aerial photography had become possible, and lo and behold what appeared on the Sphinx's head, a hole big enough for a man to fit through. Naturally, this made Denon's painting all the more interesting. It appeared he'd actually seen people climbing out of the Sphinx, which begged the question who was in the Sphinx, and what were they doing? Not a lot is known about the history of the Sphinx, or at least there isn't a lot of definitive knowledge, but researchers have noticed that the head of the Sphinx is made from different materials to the rest of the statue. The head appears to be made out of a man-made substance rather than limestone, hence the darkness of the stone of the head compared to the body. Furthermore, the Sphinx's head has hardly eroded and appears smoother than its body. This again points to the idea that the head was somehow interfered with, maybe long before any Western peoples ever knew of its existence. But this still doesn't answer the question of why those men were in the head of the Sphinx. One thing that is known is that restoration work has been done on the Great Sphinx. Something to note though is that at the time, and as mentioned by Tour Egypt, systematic research on the water table pollution and on the properties of the stone and mortar are undertaken. They note though that for some unknown reason these discoveries were not applied when the restoration work was being carried out. It's been theorized that the hole in the head of the Sphinx actually led to an underground chamber, which then joined up to more underground chambers beneath the Great Pyramids. This secret city, as it was dubbed by the mainstream media, was allegedly found in March of 1935. Newspapers even covered the topic, and it was speculated that this discovery would have gone down in history as being one of the greatest. However, not one Egyptologist or researcher commented on the findings. It was almost as if every researcher forgot about these initial discoveries. There was complete silence from those studying and working alongside these structures. Back in 1987, a Japanese research team from Tokyo's Waseda University began an extensive underground survey of the regions surrounding the Great Sphinx, utilizing groundbreaking technology at the time, known as the electromagnetic sounding survey radar. In an attempt to better image the sunken regions of the Sphinx statue, under the direction of lead researcher Sakju Yoshimura, the team got some of the most accurate 3D rendering images of the statue ever taken, with a strange revelation that no one had seen coming. For some unknown reason, the Japanese survey team discovered an extensive system of cavities and tunnels inside and underneath the Great Sphinx that were believed to have been previously undiscovered. According to the team, south of the Sphinx was a hollow tunnel believed to have been 2.5 meters wide and 3 meters tall, connecting two chambers, a small and a large chamber that appears to connect to additional tunnels that stretch north, south and southeast of the Sphinx's direction. Portions of shafts were found in unconnected areas beneath the Sphinx, with additional cavities found inside the structure of the Sphinx, and beneath the body of the Sphinx unconnected to the tunnels beneath the monolith. None of these findings have been pursued after the survey, with many denying the existence of the tunnels and shafts, despite the mountains of clear imaging evidence gathered underneath the direction of lead researchers. The frustrating thing about this is that there's no conclusion to the mysterious hole seen in the Sphinx's head. We know it was there as we have photographs and paintings, but as of right now only theories can be put forward for why it was sealed up. The ancient Egyptians have filled history with spectacular cultural offerings, from the pharaohs to the pyramids to the Great Sphinx itself. When we as a race discover something that's old, it's only natural to begin to wonder whether there is a little more to these incredible pieces of history than the accepted truths. Who knows what really lurks in the mysterious ancient catacombs beneath the Sphinx? Perhaps one day we might find out. Until that time though, we can only put forward our theories as to why these chambers have been kept a secret from the public. So what do you make of these ancient Egyptian discoveries? Why do you think the hole in the Sphinx's head was sealed up? What do you think is inside there? Also, what do you make of the ancient chambers said to be lying beneath the Sphinx and pyramids? And why do you think they're keeping us in the dark about these discoveries? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.